For years, I've heard people talking about Gundams and people building Gundam. To me, it always looked interesting. But the problem is, until now, I have never watched a single episode of Gundam. And I thought it was already too late to get into it. But it felt like I always have been missing out. So one day, I just decided to ask my friends about what's the best chronological order to watch Gundam. So anyway, I decided to watch Gundam chronologically, and I thought it would be a better idea to document the whole journey. I like cool robots, but I like more than cool robots? Politics. Now, the 08MS team is my very first Gundam ever. So of course it's gonna have a special place in my heart. But the thing that I really liked about this show is that how closely or how realistically it depicts the reality of war. Like the consequences and destruction that everything faces because of a war. This series has complex relationship, interesting characters, and overall an anti-war message. So this series got me hooked on Gundam. And there are many things that I really like about the show. I really like the characters in this series. Our main character is Shiro, who gets assigned as the new commander of the 08MS team. And as a new guy, he has to prove himself to the team. The series did not present him as a gifted guy who rocks up and starts obliterating the enemies because he's the chosen one. No, he makes mistakes in his missions and he shows his flawed sides to teammates. He has to earn his trust in order for him to be the commander of the 08MS team. Second is Terry Sanders. Sanders is pretty interesting. He has a dark past of being a lone survivor. And in the past, each team he was part of did not make it past third mission together. He was the only member who survived. Because of this, he earned the nickname of Shinigami Sanders. For Sanders, every single mission felt like a ticking time bomb. Trust doesn't come easy when you have watched so many comrades fall in battle. When Shiro took command of his team, Sanders was not even sure that if he would make it past the third mission because of his past. In one of the episodes, he almost gives up continuing the third mission. Next is Karen. Now Karen, I don't have much to say about her, but all I know is that Karen is a stoic second in command of the 08MS team. She is very, very badass. I think Karen had a husband who was a military doctor, but who died in a war. Eldor. Now Eldor is a team's communication officer who is more interested in becoming a musician than in fighting a war. This shows that not everyone is there with their own will. He sees the military as a detour from his real dreams. It seemed like he was forced to be there. Now we have Michael. Michael is the youngest and the most inexperienced member of the team, often acting like a navigator rather than a frontline pilot. When he first joins, he's actually nervous and he's not really sure if the commander would be able to keep them alive. And he spends most of his free time writing letters to his girlfriend back in the space. He just wants to come back alive. And he's looking for a commander who can do that. Kiki. Kiki is the daughter of the local guerrilla leader and isn't part of the military, but she becomes an important character and ally to the 08MS team. Initially, Kiki sees Shiro as just another soldier and then tries to use him to free her village from any threats. But somehow she ends up developing crush on him, and that just weirds me out. I don't know why, but I guess it is what it is. So characters are really interesting. Each member of the 08MS team has their own battles to fight internally and externally. They are not just soldiers, they are human beings carrying emotional scars, hopes, and doubts. This series really dives deep into the profound and often devastating impact the war has on the world around them. In this series, every single character is interesting. They have their backstory and their own motivations. Second thing is the detailed consequences of the conflict. One of the best things about this series is that it shows how much an impact a war can have on its surrounding. So the first thing I noticed was the issues with the mobile suits. Some of the machines themselves are not invincible. They break down, they get stuck, then they require constant maintenance. We see soldiers having to stop mid-battle to repair their mobile suits, patching them up and making sure that they are in a fit condition just to survive for the next mission. Second thing is that it also shows that how civilians can be caught in crossfire. One of the most powerful aspects of the series is that how it shows the war's devastating effects on civilians. There is an entire village that is caught in crossfire between the Earth Federation and Zeon forces. These are people who are not on either side, but they are just stuck in the conflict. They have no stake in the larger conflict that their lives are destroyed. Kiki belongs to this guerrilla village, and in one of the episodes we see how Zeon forces start a conflict in the village. And many people die because of that conflict that had no importance whatsoever. Other thing the series does is to portray the effect on the character's psychology. So if we talk about our main character, he is forced to fight against someone he loves, Aina Shailin. Zero spends time with Aina and gets caught by Earth Federation and they labeled him as a traitor. Keep in mind, this is the woman that he loved, but he was forced to fight just because she was on our opposite side. But one thing I really liked about this show is that it has one of the best endings ever. Our main character decides to say screw it all and then spends the rest of his life with someone he loves instead of just killing her in the battlefield because they belong on different sides of the war. This is a very strong message. Then it's Michael. All he really wants is to survive and return back alive to his girlfriend back in space. He is constantly writing her letters to remind that he is alive. In one of the episodes, he gets mad because of some consequences that put him into a position where he was not able to send those letters. This detail reminds us that it's not all about war. People have their own personal ambitions and they are putting them above everything else. Eldor. In one of the episodes, Eldor and Michael gets kidnapped and thrown into a jail. They also hear that they might be executed. Now because of this, Eldor panics and starts going off about how he wanted to become a musician and his dream will be crushed because he won't be able to become one anymore. The funny thing is his little tantrum also gets them out, but it is very interesting to see how humane these characters are in the middle of the war. Last thing is the anti-war messaging. One of the best things about this show is that it refuses to glorify actions in the war, and it depicts the brutality of it. It shows us the love that could be lost, the repairs that need to be made, the lives that need to be rebuilt, and the deep scars left on the people who lived through the conflict. In the end, Team 08 MS is not just about actions in the war or badass soldiers, but it's more about the consequences of the war, especially on people, on machines, and on the world itself. And it's a reminder that in every single conflict, the cost of war is far greater than what we often realize. It's not just about which side is winning. Shiro and Aina here refused to kill each other in the pointless war because they loved each other. And in the end, they decided to live together after abandoning their past with their opposing sides. And honestly, I personally love that ending. I love the fact that they just decided to do what they wanted and not be a puppet of some politician who decided to disagree on something. Who would want to be a puppet of some random dudes who disagreed on stuff and now decided to throw away the human lives like it's nothing? They were soldiers, just following the orders. They didn't have to hate each other. The 08 MS team is not just about actions and it's about brutality of the war and the aftermath that happens after the war. It just doesn't focus on the action, but it focuses on what happens outside of that action. The broken machines, the emotional scars, the destroyed landscape, everything is a part of war. These are the real consequences of the war. For the soldiers, for the equipments, and for the people that live in this world. And I love that this series is portraying that. I love that this series is doing something so grounded to reality that other series might not do. So far, I absolutely love this series and I'm definitely gonna continue the entire Gundam behemoth there is out there. If you like this video, subscribe, and if you wanna watch something similar, here is on the screen somewhere, and I'll see you guys in the next one.